Hello everyone, again this is Dr. Dan Bockmann. Today we're going to talk about why legs cramp at night. It's a super common problem and it can be excruciating. I mean, you can wake up out of the blue and your legs are just very painful. Sometimes it's difficult to even walk or move around on those things, and it can just seem like it comes out of nowhere. So first, when it comes to cramping, cramping is surprisingly not well understood by science and medicine. So I know this because I've done research into it, and I didn't find a whole lot. You find a lot of guesses. But essentially, any cramp, whatever body part or whenever it happens, including night cramps, which are usually in your calves, by the way, the first thing to do when you have a cramp that can buy you some comfort is fight with the cramp. Basically, try to do the opposite of what that cramp is trying to do. For example, if your calf is cramping, if this is your foot and here's your leg and then here's your calf, if your calf is cramping, its action, what the calf does is it points your toe. It straightens out your foot and ankle. So if it's cramping, it's trying to do that. So the first thing to do is try to stretch it the other way and hold it aggressively enough and long enough to where it gives up, essentially. Now it may come back, but that's the first thing you can do to get out of pain. By the way, on any stretch, I'll tell you as aggressive as you can handle for a minute or two. On this particular stretch, the calf stretch. That means you cannot harm yourself during this stretch. It may be painful for a bit. If it gets to be too painful to bear, just ease off on the stretch a little bit. Now here's my suspicion as to why calves in particular cramp at night. So a muscle is just a meat rope, right? It's a rope that can shorten itself. It can't push itself longer. It can only shorten things, shorten itself. And since the calf's job is to point your foot, and since in bed, when we lay there, our feet our toes, our ankles are mostly pointed. They're straighter, ankles are straighter than when we're walking around. When we're walking around, we've got the weight of the ground pressing on that calf, keeping it lengthened. But when we lay in bed, the toes often point, especially if you lay on your back and you've got the weight of the comforter laying on you, and it tends to kind of point it out. Or even if you're on your side, your foot just naturally tends to point because there's no weight of your body pushing it back. So that just means there's some slack in the calf muscle, and the body likes to take up slack. And if you give a muscle slack, it's more likely to cramp. You'll probably find this with your big toe or your toes. Sometimes if you curl your toes under, you'll get a painful cramp on the bottom of your foot. Same thing. All you're doing is you're putting some slack in that muscle. The muscle takes over and says, yeah, we'll take a lot of that. Now, other thing I'll say about cramping, there's another kind of cramping called exercise-associated muscle cramping, and that's cramping that happens either during exercise or shortly after. Again, in the world of cramping, not super well understood, but I have 4 risk factors that I associate with cramping during or shortly after sport or exercise. And they are heat, dehydration, electrolyte depletion, and exhaustion or fatigue. Now, those 4 things often happen at the same time. So, for example, I'm a beach volleyball player. If I get a cramp every once in a while, I'll get one in my quad or my calf or somewhere. It's towards the end of the tournament. I've been out there for 6, 7, 8 hours. It's hot outside, so I may be dehydrated. I may be electrolyte depleted since I've sweat out all my salt, right? Because I'm wearing all of the water on the outside of me, and included in that is salt, which is the most important electrolyte for cramping. I've been pushing myself really hard. I'm exerting myself, and it's hot. So you may get all those things at the same time. So if you do get cramping that it occurs during or shortly after exercise, the top things to look for, I mean, you can't do anything about the exertion. You've already done it, right? But you can look at water and electrolytes. And you can get in the shade too. And I mean, you can jump in a pool if you have that available and cool yourself down a bit. But water and electrolytes are the 2 big ones. So ask yourself, do I feel like I'm pretty well hydrated? Way to determine hydration, the best way, by the way, is if your urine is light, like champagne colored at darkest. If it's champagne colored or lighter, chances are you're pretty well hydrated. If it's darker than that, push some fluids, drink some water, get some fluid in you, and a lot of times a dehydrated muscle is much more likely to cramp. Also, electrolytes help turn muscles on and off. So if you're depleted, if you sweat out all your salt, then the muscle may just be locked in the on position, which is what a cramp is. And on the volleyball court, a lot of times we'll drink pickle juice because it tastes kind of good and it has salt in it. It's not the pickle, it's the salt that's good that you need. If your electrolytes are low and that's why you're cramping, I see results within 5 minutes or less. Sometimes I've even just gotten a handful of table salt, dump it in my glass and shoot it. And if my cramp goes away in 5 minutes, I can go back and play. That's what it was. So again, I'll say too, there are some neurological issues or other systemic issues that can contribute to cramping as well. I mean, neurological disease or certain medications, either by themselves or in combination with other meds, can cause cramping as well. So if you've been on some new meds or the doses changed on those, talk to your doctor about that, or look up online and see if cramping is one of the side effects of that. So in general, staying really flexible. And we're going to talk more about this in future videos, how to determine if you are flexible, what to do if you're not, what fixes to plug in, what stretches to do, how often, how to use a foam roller, all those things which are flexibility tools. We'll talk about that. But the more flexible you are, the more well hydrated you are, and keeping electrolytes in you, the less likely these things are to happen. If you do have a cramp at night, fight with it. Drop your heel off a step or prop it up on something. As aggressive a stretch as you can handle for a minute or two. See if that helps. If so, great. Anyway, thanks again for being here, you guys, and I hope that clears up some questions y'all might have. If you do have more, leave your question in the comment section below. I would love to address that in a future video. Until next time, see you guys.